Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jim Hugh Lam from Group 10. The country we're going to present is Japan. And this is the flow of our presentation. Firstly, I will briefly introduce some hard facts about Japan. Japan is a stable and democratic country which is located in the Pacific Ocean. From political perspective, Japan is the member of G8, G20 as well as the United Nations. From the economic perspective, Japan has a higher ranking by the nominal GDP and the purchasing power. And this is some photo about Japan. You can see how prosperity of Japan is. Okay, then the analytical model we use is SWOT, and I'm personally in charge of the first part, the strengths. And my research topic is about why did Japan become an exporter of high-tech products after post-war economic miracle. I will explore it according to these four factors. The first one is democratization. The second one is government innovation and public policy. The third one is labor market reform and education reform. And the last one is favorable international condition. Okay, first of all, democratization is one of the most important factors to accelerate the development of high-tech industry in Japan. And due to the implementation of fair trade laws and the economic power excessive concentration elimination law, it can conduct a relatively fair competitive platform for the high-tech industry. Besides, from the government intervention and public policy, we can see that the government are actively to assist some industrial sector to recover after World War II. And from these figures, we can observe that the trend of Japan heavy industrial production had increased from 1960 to 1980 compared with the USA and Germany. And from this graph, it indicates that the contribution of increase in capital was much larger than the contribution of improvements in labor quality, as well as the contribution of increase in man-hour input, so that the capital increase has a much higher contribution to the recovery of Japanese economic development after World War II. In addition, the Japanese government also introduced some, for example, the Business Rationalization Promotion Act and the long-term credit bank system, so as to provide finance to entrepreneurs, which result in a sharp rise in investment ratio. We can see from this figure, the investment ratio had increased from 1930 to 70, and it had increased from around 25% to near 40%. And based on the above stimulus, the high-tech industry share of total manufacturing output was in the leading position, and it got approximately around near 14% in the world compared with other developed countries like the USA, Germany, UK, and etc. Furthermore, more skilled technicians were trained by rural-urban transfer and the compulsory education reform. And from this population graph, 1,000 of young people had transferred from the rural area to urban area, so that after receiving the compulsory education, they were trained to be a skilled technician, so that they can contribute their skill to improve the development of high-tech industry in Japan after the World War II and during the economic miracle period. And last but not least, the favorable international condition was beneficial for Japanese high-tech industry. Due to the Korean War, it triggered a rapid reconstruction of the Japanese economy. And that's the end of my part. Here, we can take a look on the weakness Parts of Japan, presented by my good mate, Mike.
Thank you, Jim. Presentations. Now is my part of presentation. Okay, I'm going to talk about the impacts of Asian population in Japan. As we all know that the Asian population problem is fairly serious in Japan. Asian population problem is a major long-term concern that is related to Japanese economy and society. The share of the elderly in total population is increasing from 40.8% to 27.5%, and also the speed of Asian population problem in Japan is much higher than other countries such as Germany and Italy and even China. And because of the Asian population problem, the labor force market is greatly affected by such problem. The labor force is started to decline in the 21st century. The graph shows that there is a Asian population problems. Nearly one in 5 Japanese is aged 65 or above, and in the figures show that there will, in the next 3 decades, the figures will jump to more than 1 in 3 in next 3 decades, according to the government data. And the share of elderly in the total population in the futures of 2055, there will be account for 41% of population. I'd like to talk about main factors of the Asian population problems. First one is foreign fertility, and the second one is the longevity. What is the foreign fertility? Foreign fertility means that their newborn baby is starting to decrease, and longevity means that there are more and more people their age is longer and longer. Their life expectancy is become longer. And there is the Japan fertility ratio. The figures show that since 1947 there is a 4.5, and now in 2014 there is a 1.4. The trend is starting to decrease, and the reason behind that is because of shifting from the agriculture to the service sector. The labours may be replaced by the machine or capital, or so the demand for labour may be starting to decrease. Also, the other reasons that their incomes of the woman is starting to increase. Their cost of raising baby is starting to become higher and higher than before, so that they are not willing to raise their baby, and so therefore in average number of children per family. The figures show that the number of birth and the fertility rates. The total fertility rate of Japan is 2.0 children per woman. They will maintain a stable level, but however, the Japan rate continues to fall since the dropping below 2.0 in 1975, and there is Islam to all-time low of 1.6 in 2000. The number of women in 20s who have a child in 2012 decreased by 1,600 and 2,000 from previous years. And there is longevity. Longevity means that the average life expectancy of the both female or male that become longer. We can see that from the 1947, the male age is 50.1 years, and then for female is 54 years. And now, and recent year 2012, the average age of the male is 85, and for female is 87.3 years. The figures show that in the future of 2055, the average age of the male is about 83, and the average age of the female is about 90. Okay, I will talk about the effects of the labor market structure of the Asian population, which is declining labor force, and also there are more and more old persons or women enter the labor market, so there is a woman labor participation, and the old person labor force participation have increased. So there is the macroeconomic consequence of an Asian population, because the labor is the main factors of the GDP growth, and increasing shortage of labours will become the main factors for decelerations of expected growth of GDP and household saving. house saving are likely to force as the proportion of elderly rise and they withdraw money from the bank and then for their retired life, so that resulting in increase in the saving in a share of the population, total population. The investment may be decreased by the falling capital and arising from decrease in labor supplies and the higher interest rate associated with the declining saving rate. Finally, there is the physical impacts of Japan's saving population, aging population. Because there is more and more elderly in society, so government have to increase the public pensions benefits or for the retired, also increase the medical service, the healthcare products. Both saving and investment are affected by the aging population due to the associated increase in tax and social security burdens of the working age population. We can see that the social security expenditure is much higher in recent years according to the government statistic. Okay, this is the end of our presentation. Now I would like to pass to Andy Lai about their presentation of the opportunities of Japan.
Okay, now we will talk about the opportunity from the Gulf in China to Japan. Okay, first let me introduce about the situation now. Since the established diplomatic relations on 1972, the bilateral economic relationships go rapidly between Japan and China, and it's about 10 years before the reform and opening on 1982. So, in the following year, Japan took advantages by the export to China and investment in the mainland. Okay, let me introduce more about the history, about the relationship. Okay, and in the earliest 1916, there are already some trading between the Japan and China, and until the 29th of September in 1972, the Sino-Japanese joint statement are established by the Japan and China, and so their economic relationship just go really quickly, and also a lot of trading argument arranged after that. Okay, then we'll go to the 1980s to the mid 1990s, the golden age of the economic relationship between the Japan and China. You can see this is really an important period for the Japan. The inflow of the Japanese product into China had produced a serious trade surplus for the Japan, and you can see in this graph. From the 1980s to the 1990s, a really huge positive balance of payment is made in Japan. But okay, of course, you may notice that there's a dip in here, and it's because both of the country refused to trade with the China because of the punishment of the Tiananmen events. Then okay, we will talk about the advantage. What the actual advantage the Japanese get in China? So then we will have three things. The first one, a really low labor cost, of course, as we all know. And then the second, the Japanese firm want to extend into the big market in China. And finally, the Japan want to export their old production line to the China. Okay, let's talk about the labor cost. As we can see in this figure, the Chinese labor cost is extremely low compared with other countries. And so, the determining factor in competing with the price is the lowest cost. Very simple put, if you are the lowest cost producer, if you are not a lowest cost producer, you will remain in the market just as long as only your lowest competitor want you to remain. So you can see how attractive is the China to not only the Japanese firms and also the companies around the world. And then also we can also see about the FDI, the foreign direct investment. Okay, the increasing importance to the China of China can be clearly seen in this data. For a period of strong investment outflow to other economy in East Asia in 1970s and 1980s, the Japanese FDI to China began to grow strongly around the mid-1990s. And China had received more investment than from Japan than either the higher income economies and also the lower income economies in the early 2000s. So actually, and then a third of the Japanese FDI is go to the China in nowadays. And okay, and then the technology transfer. Since the 1963, the China started to import Japanese technology. In exchange, Japan get lots of benefits such as the opportunity to go into their market and also building a good image to China. Okay, so the Chinese grow quickly, and at the same time, the Japanese can develop their own production line in the China. In the 1980s, the Japan became the biggest trading partner on the technology to the China. As a result, Japan is able to focus on their strength, the innovation industry and also the higher technology industry. Okay, to conclude this, since the 1970s, the Japan benefits itself from the cooperation with China, and also Japanese invest in China successfully and earlier than all of the countries around the world. Because of their understanding of the market of China, and also the long-term cooperation, the Japan still take the advantage and get a win-win result in the past. But however, the China is likely a cooperation partner or a revival nowadays. Okay, then this part I will pass to my partner Thomas Zhu to talk about what's the threat to the Japan.
Okay, this part is about the threat of Japan. So the question is is China a threat for Japanese economy? And we can see this China's flag. And I will categorize into 4 parts to talk about the threat of Japan. The first part is that Japan domestic initiatives, can this be sustainable by myself? And the second part is about Japan. We will have some data to indicate that Japan's future will depend heavily on China. And the third part is that about the major political conflicts between Japan and China. And the last part is that can Japan afford to lose China, this major partner? And here is about the analysis. We can see that the following 3 graphs will show some quantitative data that Japan needs to heavily rely on China. And we can see that Japanese firm has taken advantage from China since 1978. And we can see from this graph, China has become much stronger in these recent decades. We can show in the red line in the upper part, Japan was facing a very strong economic growth since 1978. And this graph demonstrates that China is the main importer of Japan. We can see in the middle part, China is the major importer of Japan. That means Japan is there is huge economic benefits generated from Japan. And this graph also shows that Japan, the share originally Japan exports many goods to the US, but now it's changed. The situation completely changed to favor China. The major export destination of Japan is China now. So what we can see from these data is that China and Japan's economies are respectively the world's second and fourth largest economy, and they have mutually rely on each other. And we can see from the Japan and China trade grew to $266.4 billion. It is a very huge amount, and it also means that they are the two top weight trading partners. So the third part is about the conflict. It is made, and we all know that it is about the Senkaku Islands, which is also Diaoyu Island in Chinese context. So on top of the Diaoyu Island, it means that Japan and China have many political conflicts, and it also hinders the economic prospect of Japan. Why? Because there are many mutual business agreement was hindered. China was reluctant to sign some agreement with Japan. And also there are other political issues on top of Senkaku Islands, such as the Air Defense Identification Zone. It also involves many conflicts between these two big countries. And also it also have some issues, sensitive issues about the history of Japan and China. So it also provoked some sentiment of our Chinese people. Some Chinese people started to provoke some ill feeling, and they started to boycott the Japanese goods. And all of the conflicts also posed major threats to Japan economy. So in this graph, we can see that the economic relationship between China and Japan is very large. In the Asia, it shows the power and the power distribution in Asia, the economic power. We can also see from this graph the export destination of China now. The second largest country is Japan, and the top import partners of China is Japan as well. So we can see how close they are now. So in this graph, we can also see from the Japan's merchandise trade, it is also records a decline in these recent years because of some exchange rates problem and also the Chinese conflict. So in conclusion, we can see Japan do not have enough raw materials. It relies on the China's exports, and in order to pay for these imports, Japan must export a variety of manufactured goods to China and other countries. So if the relations between China and Japan is deteriorating, the trade deficit of Japan will be enlarged in the future. And that's all from our presentation, and we welcome all the questions, and we welcome you all to send the email to me to ask questions, and we will answer you. Thank you.